Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Gombops Live. I'm Rich Manjacaro, and so glad that you could join us today. We have three gentlemen today that have some really interesting aspects of playing percussion and music, and I'm really excited to have all of these guys here. We hope you're all well out there, and as with all of our other shows, this is a group effort. So feel free to chime in. We will be seeing all of your comments. You can post comments, post questions, and if you have a question for the group or a question for one of these guys individually, feel free and chime in. And if we can, we'll post your question on screen so the guys can answer. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for coming along on the ride with us on the show we're calling Have Drums Will Travel, and you'll see why in a minute. Anyway, okay, here we go. My first guest is Willy Calderon. He's a professional touring and recording percussionist, producer, and mixing engineer for his studio called Willy Calderon Recordings and Sounds. He's the founder of LA Impromptu, a prestigious band whose upcoming album release boasts the presence of over 30 of the music industry's leading artists like Luisito and Roberto Quintero, Tony Sucar, Luis Conte, Alex Acuna, and many more. He also composes scores for video games, produces and mixes for various artists and genres. Everybody, say hi to Willy Calderon, everybody. Morning, Willy.
What's up?
Welcome, welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Right on, Ryan. So glad to have you, man.
Yeah, man.
Next guest, all the way from the UK today. Growing up in Brighton, United Kingdom, Will Fry's musical roots include studies on classical violin, piano, Indian tabla, West African djembe, as well as orchestral percussion and drum kit. Will moved to London and 20 years old, quickly became working with an eclectic list of artists, including Alex Wilson, Jamiroquai, Duffy, Roy Ayers, Snowboy, Robert Pia, Ernesto Simpson, Baba Mal, and Nathan Haynes. Will has performed on over 30 countries and continents and studied in Cuba, USA, Brazil, and also Senegal. He's been a band member of several West End shows and worked on London's prestigious recording studios and venues. Most recent recording sessions and live streams include Iliane Correa, Sam Smith, Native Dancer, Yuta, Hiraku, and Celeste. All the way from London, everybody say hi to Will Fry. Yo, Will.
Hey, Rich. Yo, how you doing?
Welcome,
hey, Willy.
welcome.
What's up, man?
Welcome. So glad you could.
Good to
glad
see
you
you guys.
can join us, and thanks for adapting your time schedule, because the rest of us are on the California time, and you're into your evening. So thank you.
Yeah, no
I'd like to be on Will Fry's time right now.
Yeah. Actually, I would too. I love London.
Seriously.
Well, welcome, guys. Our last guest, born and raised in Texas, Will Phillips is now one of LA's most in-demand percussionists. Captivated by Brazilian music, he spent an extensive amount of time living in Brazil. He appeared on many TV shows, The Voice, American Idol, MTV Brazil, and was the house percussionist for the 2010 American Music Awards Red Carpet Gala. Will's recorded and performed with will.i.am, Ellis Hall, Persian superstar Gugush, multi-platinum Brazilian artist Michael Tello, and American/Grammy Award-winning Jamie Foxx. Will has a signature product with us. He helped us create our bucket shake-a-day from his extensive experience living and playing and working in Brazil. He's inspired us to come out with this great instrument that is just great. If you don't have it, you should get it. Anyway, everybody say hi to Will Phillips. Welcome, Will.
What's up? What's up, everybody?
Welcome.
Good to be
Good
here.
to have you guys. Really good to have you guys. Well, as I just said in the intro, we've got Will Fry from the UK. He's into his evening, and we're all still having coffee over here. But it's just great to see you guys. Yeah.
All we needed was will.i.am here in the podcast.
Yeah, right.
Let's get it done.
And also, Willy Calderon, thanks for taking time out of your move. Everybody, he's in the middle of moving his whole house and life and everything right now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty intense.
Yeah. Hey,
especially when you move a studio, right? I mean, as far as the wiring and the
don't remind me. I'm not looking forward to that.
yeah, that's the last thing to move, right?
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
right. Yeah. Well, everybody, welcome. So, what a year. We just
This is when we start crying. It's too early for that, Rich.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know where to begin with something like this, but I think all of us, I think that's probably one of the things that has been one of the more incredible things about what we all just went through, is that we collectively around the globe have shared something like this and kind of experienced a human challenge. It's kind of unprecedented, obviously, and it's been a horrible thing for so many families. And so I guess first thing I want to say is I hope you guys are, you and your families are well and got through the year okay. I'll send this out to the group first. What's things like these days as far as activity returning, and what are you seeing? I know that I've heard on the news here that the UK is still kind of struggling. So Will, why don't you take this first on what you're seeing over in the UK?
Yeah, well, I don't know if everyone knows, but over here we've had it hasn't been handled in the best way. Before we get too deep into politics, it's been a bit of a disastrous handling here. So I think we've had, I lose track. I don't even know what year it is anymore. I've just been in this room for what feels like an eternity. But things are starting to open up. I've had both vaccines. Quite a lot of my friends have as well. Most people who are older than me definitely have. Yeah, so we're hoping. I did my first live gig, I think the second day that we were allowed to legally. And that was like, it was like taking drugs. It was amazing. It was like such an endorphin hit. It was like, and also just like such a nice reminder of what we do. Because like everybody was, or, you know, most of us, we've been forced into doing lots of home recording and, you know, doing what we can to play with each other and all of that. And there's been positives to that for sure. But, you know, I've done a few live streams and that's been nice. It's been nice to play with people, but nothing is like kind of having that thing with an audience. I've realized more and more that that's like what I really love to do, is to have that complete feeling of freedom on stage and like expression. So it was really great to have that. And I think it might get taken away again pretty soon.
Oh, no. Where was your live gig?
We did a gig at Ronnie Scott's with Eliane Correa, who's a really good friend and neighbor, actually. She lives just down the road. That was with her new timber group. She has a Latin jazz group, a timber group, another group called Wara. She plays with Hans Zimmer in his touring thing.
Okay.
She's a bit of a force to be reckoned with. So
what was Ronnie Scott's like? Because I've been in there where it's kind of tight quarters, and how did they spread it out, or how did they manage that?
They've been really good with it, actually. A lot of the seats have got some like plastic screens on, and they've been really clever with how they set it up. So I think it was something like 75% capacity, which is amazing, and it felt good. And you know, it's just like the simple things. I arrived and I kind of and I sort of forgot how much money I must have spent there, because I was just there so much. It's just always in town, and it's always a great thing. They have a thing called the Late Late Show that goes on till about 3 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning. So I would often, I'll be often feeling like how Willy is now the next morning, because I'd be always out till late, and just having my mind blown by such incredible musicians. So it was nice to go there and see all the faces and have everyone say hello. And then Chloe, who worked there, made me a coffee. I sort of sat down, and then Shahan said to me, "Man, can I get you some drums? You know, how many drums do you want to play?" I said, "Oh man, just bring them all." And they put all the drums on stage. And then I sat down, there was a sound check. I got fed, I had a beer, played a great gig. And then I just got on the bus and went home. And I just thought, man, this is amazing. What a great job. What a brilliant job I have. After a year and a half of thinking, what am I doing with my life? This makes no sense.
The last time that I was when I was in London, the last time that I was there, I was walking around that neighborhood. It was actually the first time I'd ever been in London, and I was so excited. And you know, I come across Ronnie Scott's. I'm like, oh man, this is it, man, this is it. I'm so excited. And I go, God, I wonder who's playing here tonight. And I look up at the marquee, and it was Steve Gadd and his band. And I was like, you got to be kidding! What's the chances of the timing of this, right? So I said, I'm so excited. I'm going to go see this. So I go in, I try to get tickets, sold out the entire time I was there. He was there a week, not one night open. So
this probably isn't the best time to say this, but there's a really good way to sneak into Ronnie's if it is sold out. I'll save this to afterwards.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't call you, but yeah, I was really bummed I couldn't go to see him play there. But anyway, Will Phillips, I know you've been doing some live stuff quite a bit actually. So you've really all of a sudden the activity has really stepped up. And tell us a little bit about what's some of the stuff you've been doing.
Well, I would say about a month ago, or 3 weeks ago, I kind of started to open. Started to get a bunch of calls just around town for different, whether it be, hotels or whatnot. So been doing a lot of little gigs like that. And, to kind of like elaborate on what Will was saying, he's right. It's like taking a drug now. It's fantastic. Like, I won't forget the first gig I did after the pandemic. It was with my friend Dylan Chambers. And we've done a lot of these gigs. The response, though, was incredible. I mean, people after every song were just like, clapping, really into it. We must have got 4 or 5 private party offers just that day. The energy is what I'm saying has shifted right now. Like, people are really, just like what Will was saying, how he really appreciated that gig after a year and a half of going crazy. I feel like the public are feeling the same when they're hearing live music right now. I mean, it just feels like a different response. It's nice.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that everyone is so hungry right now for this. Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing a lot on the live stuff right now.
And Willie, you've been more like hunkered down, right? Trying to finish the record.
Yeah. I feel almost like bad saying it, but I used this opportunity to steer things in a whole new direction.
Yeah.
And it ended up working out. I just took a whole bunch of money and just threw it to the studio. Right. And I said, okay, A, it's an investment in what I do. B, even if I have no work as a mixing engineer or a recording, whatever, I could make my projects, on my gear and stuff like that. But it ended up being that, I did a little advertisement, a video, threw it all together, let it out on Facebook. And I started working. I started getting people to send me their tracks, their projects. And I started just mixing at the house. And that opened up a whole new passion and world for me. And it's been, how long we've been in the lockdown? For a year or something, when it was supposed to be 2 weeks. But the whole year I've been in school, right? I've been in YouTube school. I bought a bunch of subscriptions to a bunch of these online things that interview masters, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's been school for me. It's been school, and I'm not gonna lie. Maybe it's a bad thing, but I did gig during the whole thing, and actually did have to travel during, so that was an experience. It was like like a war zone, nobody there at the airports, nobody, I could sleep on the plane, no one, you know what I mean?
Right. Back to Colombia or?
Yeah. I went to Colombia. I had something for Canada, but Canada is really they're not letting nobody in, right? So that got canceled. I did a couple of other things out of state and things like that. But thankfully everything's been cool. Thankfully everything's been blessed, and I've tried to help out where I can. Somebody seems to be struggling, I try to help out there. Just pay it forward type thing.
Yeah. Well, what you just said is I can totally relate to it when you said going to school, because one thing I do know that's happened in this past year, as far as actual instrument sales or music product sales, is home recording and software has exploded. And I definitely know this for a fact. And so I can speak from experience on that, because I've definitely put money into my studio, and I too, Willie, I feel like I've been going to school, and I'm just trying to learn, what I need to know to get a good recording out, and
Yeah.
you don't need to have a lot of expensive gear to do that, but you definitely the engineering side of being a musician, I think all of us have kind of been forced into that corner. I've talked to quite a few people actually that said, I've never had to think about how to record myself, and into that, I've also known quite a few drummers I've talked to for the past 30 years that started this a long time ago. And a few friends of mine in New York City told me, 25 years ago, get your studio together, get your recording gear together. And, when they were way ahead of the game, and now obviously most of us have some sort of a home recording system.
I was trying to upgrade my studio for the last maybe 6 years. I've been talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I got and in so many gigs, I couldn't do it. No time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't. It's forced, but I think of it as like a blessing in disguise in terms of like personal, like looking into myself and being like, yo, like we gotta level up, level up. I practiced almost every day, timbal, conga, everything. I'm just hoping everybody else did the same, so we could get back to the stage and sound better, not worse. Let's not sound worse. Let's sound better,
Yeah. No, that's so true. So true, man. But yeah, no, I mean, that's actually been a kind of an exciting part of this last year. At least I know for me, it's like I've really kind of stepped up that side of my life and working on my second album and having fun playing all these Gombops products under a microphone, which you guys know how that is. That's just so much fun. They speak so well under a mic.
They sound different, on a microphone, man. They sound like, because I've recorded with a bunch of different percussion brands and stuff like that. Gombops just sounds like a record already, like going, like just tracking it.
Yeah.
It just sounds clean. It just sounds the instruments.
Yeah, there's a richness. There's a richness, it's great. And it's great to be able to have the time to experiment. Will Fry, do you have that set up at your place as well, a place to record?
Yeah, I can relate to both of what you're saying. I mean, my setup at home is it has to be basic just because there isn't that much space.
Yeah.
I live close to the center of London, which is brilliant. I'm totally set up for sort of doing live playing and going into town and doing shows and being available at the last minute. So I kind of adapted pretty quickly as we hit. I kind of hit the ground running. I already had I've got a sample pack that's out with this company called Rattling and Raw. So the first thing we did is we finished that off, which is been on the to-do list for years and years. That was a an horrible process, like doing that. It was one of those things where we tracked. There's like hundreds of thousands of samples on this thing and loads of you go into the studio, you take a cowbell and you play it like quietly 20 times at this level, and then just a little bit louder 20 times, a little bit louder. Then you play it at the mouth. So we did all of that, and finally Emre Ramazanoglu, who's this amazing producer and drummer, he got that finished off. So I kind of got my head around native instruments and Contact and all of that. And then I finally, just before going into the first lockdown here, I bought some mics and just a basic 2-channel audio interface. Yeah. And as you were saying, Rich, like all I did for some stuff was stick a couple of Sennheiser mics on. I've got these California series congas that I've had for like over 10 years now, and they just get better and better as time goes by.
Yeah.
So no EQ, just that, and they sound great. Everyone's been really happy. They're just such warm, like beautiful, lovely sounding drums. And not just that, like all of the kind of some of the other things like the shell chimes, the Orestes timbales are fantastic as well, really versatile, and they record so well.
They're a good recording timbale, yes.
Yeah. Even the Casca is fine. It's not like the most authentic, but then for that I go and get the Alex Acuna ones, which have just got the most, like they just sound like the old leadies. They're brilliant. So.
And you're using on your California, is it using synthetic or cowhide on your
Yeah, kind of everything.
Yeah.
I kind of went down a bit of a hole during a
Oh.
kind of a head hole for a couple of weeks when I had some free time. So I've reskinned the drum, so I've got some thick cow head that I can use. I've also
Uh-huh.
got the original heads that I also really like. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're cow. I think I got some water buffalo heads somewhere as well. So I have kind of a few different choices of heads.
Yeah.
I know Will did the same on your Marianos. You have a few different choices, and it's not just because one's better than the other, or it's not because I don't like the factory heads. It's
Yeah.
just to have different sound options.
Totally.
Again, for like being in a small space, for me, in an ideal world, I'd love to have loads of different drums everywhere. But being able to change the heads really quickly, which I can do, is gives me lots of different choices. And then I have some fiber skins, some new skins. I have a tucked 11-inch Quinto head, fits Gombops. This is such a nerdy thing to say, but maybe some people might appreciate this. But I've got like a really old tucked new skin head that's been around for like 20 years. That's like really stretched and worn in. And it's an 11-inch Quinto head, and that fits the conga perfectly.
Oh, okay.
It sounds amazing. It's incredible. So,
well, you know, drum.
Sorry, with this plastic, you forget that you do actually have to go through a period of breaking them in before they sound like as good as they can.
Well, you know, we get more questions about drum heads lately, especially. I don't know, but we get a lot of questions about drum heads and advice and blah blah. And this is something Will Phillips and I have talked about quite a bit. And I know that Will has experimented a lot with changing heads on his drums. Recently too. This is a very recent thing, right? Right, Will?
Very recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about. I want to ask Will Phillips first. I mean, you're from Texas originally, and what were some of your early influences? Was there any specific styles? Was it? I mean, just curious what you were listening to when you were kind of getting into this whole thing.
You're never gonna guess, but all right. Actually, I was really into like the whole jam band thing when I started to get into percussion. Really, so like Widespread Panic back then was a big influence for me because their percussionist has every toy imaginable, and I just thought that was the best. So that was a big influence for me. It was Widespread Panic, but from that, it leaked into everything else. Tito Puente, Giovanni Hidalgo. What most people kind of draw to when they're starting. And that was it for me, anyhow. It started with Widespread Panic and then went to like Tito Puente and all kinds of different Latin jazz artists. And yeah, those were my influences at the beginning.
Right. And let's throw that question around a little bit. Willy, from Colombia, how old were you when you moved to the States?
Like 1.
Oh, so you were young. Yeah. But when you started getting into music, what were some of your earliest influences?
Dude, I used to listen to a lot of hip hop as a kid.
Okay.
A lot of hip hop. Most notably, Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001, where that was the only hip hop album that I heard that had live percussion recorded into it at the time, and that was done by my friend Taku Hirano, and great percussionist, great Japanese percussionist. He's awesome, and so I started hearing these like tambourine rolls and stuff like that. These roto toms, and all of these weird sounds, and I was like, wow, that sounds cool. And then I got into a lot of Colombian music because my godfather is actually Fruco. So Fruco in Colombia is like Johnny Pacheco in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
To Colombia, right? And he was actually solely responsible. Fruco was solely responsible for the development of salsa in the 70s in Colombia until it reached the United States. So so I started listening to that music, to the legacy, to all the old stuff. And the first thing I ever learned to play was the piano, right? On those type of Latin songs and stuff like that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, man, seriously. And then I moved on to percussion. Yeah. And that
Okay.
came quick because I was, at 2 years old, you see pictures of me like behind a couch with some bongos in my diaper, doing nothing but just playing various percussion instruments around the house,
All
Because
right.
my family was musical and stuff. So they had maracas and stuff hanging around. And so, yeah, at an early age, I've, been listening to all kinds of music.
Right. Right. Will Fry, you've got an interesting eclectic background. Talk a little bit about your early influences
Yeah,
because
it's
you kind of
weird, isn't
play.
it? It's
Yeah.
still very strange. Yeah, so I grew up playing violin. I don't think ever because I necessarily wanted to, but I had two older sisters who well, I still do. I have two older sisters who back then were playing violin, and I remember it just being out of reach on the top shelf, and I was jealous and wanted to play. And my parents wouldn't let me stop, so I had to sort of keep going, which I was really grateful for actually. So I kind of got quite far down the line with it, but then at the same time started playing some samba stuff in Brighton, and then I started hanging out. Well, the story goes there was this group who came to our school, and they did like a scratch samba band with us, playing like tin cans and this kind of stuff. And then at the end of the parade, there was a little parade in Brighton where I grew up on the seafront. There was a stage, and I kind of took to it quite naturally, and I got pushed to the front and got given all of the calls to, all the Hibiki calls to call everybody in. And I remember I got on stage, I must have been about 14, and immediately forgot everything. And I remember just standing there like in a bit of a panic, like rabbit in the headlights. So afterwards, sort of with my tail between my legs, I went down and there was a drum shop on the seafront. So there was a guy called Les and Joe, I think, was there as well. And they had all these percussion instruments from all around the world, this little stall. So I was there for like 6 hours, and they were really patient with me and showed me all these instruments from everywhere. And then I started going down to the shop, their main shop in Brighton. And I just go there almost every day, and I would just sit at the back. And it was more like a sort of hangout than anything else. I remember in one of the videos you've done here, Rich, I remember Lenny Castro talking about how he used to sort of start out in a drum shop and just you just have all of these kind of constant interactions with people, and people would be coming through and getting drums fixed, or people have no money or borrowing stuff. And so I think I've always had a pretty good indication of what like being a musician would entail from an early age. And then they were just the guys, and they were really sweet, and saw I had like a passion for it. And then I started playing some congas, and then I joined a few bands in Brighton, and then just started playing with whoever I could. So there was like in Brighton there was like a maracatu group, a samba thing, a djembe group. I was taking tabla lessons. I was playing in about 2 or 3 salsa bands, a couple of funk bands, a little Latin jazz trio. For a really small town, there was like something to do every day.
Wow.
So it was really good upbringing, and so like a kind of safe space to grow and learn and challenge myself. And then it was only about an hour or so on the train away from London, so I then started going up into London, and then ultimately moved to town.
So starting out on violin and a melodic instrument like that, I'm sure your reading was you had an advantage over.
Kind of. I did a recording session yesterday. I did a film session yesterday, kind of the first big one that I've done, and it was still terrifying. I walked into the room and there was like a big stack of charts like that.
Oh.
That got me into a panic pretty quickly. But then, but then I got through it. Then I kind of things start to you kind of get through one and the other. You realize you can kind of second guess stuff. And But I'm not a wonderful reader. I'm not an amazing reader, and certainly I kind of still like marvel at all the guys who can do all the formatted stuff. And
so do I. Yeah, no, it's definitely an art form and a daily thing, a daily practice to have the reading to the point,
Well, but also it's like having the reading, but then being in that situation where you're in those really intimidating London studios that are so kind of old and have all of this kind of prestige and hype about them. You walk in there and your guts just fall out.
A lot of it is instinct too, man. Instinct.
Yeah.
Just have that instinct. That's what separates the men from the boys. That instinct, like knowing when it's coming.
Yeah, but also luckily, I think with a lot of like a lot of Latin percussion, a lot of kind of groove-based percussion. Anyway, a lot of the time the charts are kind of more just a rough indication.
Right.
So you don't always have to play exactly what's on the part. Or if you make a mistake, you can kind of go, oh yeah, but I just thought that might sound better.
I,
Your way out of it.
Classic.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you know, I speaking of soundtrack stuff, I had the great fortune of attending a lot of recording sessions over the years and being in the pit watching the guys lay it down to the screen. And I feel like I'm continually feel blessed that I had those opportunities. And I was generally hanging out with Emil Richards and Joe Porcaro and just watching them work, you know. And I'll never forget Emil telling me once, because, you know, I looked at the chart and I went, how the heck are you going to play that? Because it was just the whole page was black, you know. And he goes, and he told me, because, you know, there's some composers sometimes that aren't percussionists that will write a part and it's like almost virtually unplayable. And so what he did was he would like learn to, and he was what you just said about reading in the moment or sight reading, you know, the amazing talent that they have. They have those guys, all those guys that do the soundtrack stuff, incredible sight readers. But they also, to make the decision in the moment how to adapt the chart so that they can play it, he said he would leave out certain notes in the passage. So, you know, if it was like a 16 or 30-second note run, in order to get it and hit it, sometimes he would have to leave out some of the notes and still get the vibe, and it would work, you know. But really interesting to watch those guys work. Just unbelievable, you know. All those guys in town here that do that, you know, Bernie Dressel and Alex and Lenny and Brian Kilgore and all the guys, you know, they're a whole thing in themselves. That, you know, incredible. Hey, Will Phillips. So Brazil, talk a little bit about how that whole side of your life started. And before you get into that, everybody should know that our pandero that we have now, our 8 and our 10-inch panderos, that instrument was inspired by Will. Will is a fantastic pandero player. And we were talking about doing a pandero, and Will had an idea for the construction of the one that we have with a very light shell. It's one of the lightest ones on the market. So he was instrumental in helping us with that. But talk about how Brazil started in your life, Will.
Okay. I'll try to make it quick because this can be a long one.
Yeah. You're married to a Brazilian lady, so there's
I am. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. She's awesome. So Brazil has been a very impactful part of my life, as far as everything from music to really just learning about life. And how it started was it actually started on pandero. So I was in school here in LA, and Jerry Steinholtz was my teacher. He introduced me to pandero. And it came easy, actually. It just came natural. So obviously I gravitated towards that. And from pandero, I found samba, I found MPB, I found forró, all the different styles of Brazil. And just kind of fell in love with it and realized if I want to really do this and learn, the only way I think I can do it is go live there. So that's what I did. I sold everything I owned. Got into a backpack and a pandero, and that was it. And I moved to Brazil. I moved to Rio, which was completely crazy because, look, I didn't even know Portuguese at the time. So I'm on the airplane about to land in Rio, studying this tape to learn how to say, "Where's the bank?" Because I know I'm going to need money right when I get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Onde fica o banco? That was, I've said it over and over and over. Anyway, I get there, and of course, I'm ready. I'm get off the plane. I'm oh yeah, onde fica o banco? Great. The woman says, esquerda lá, direita lá. She gave me the instructions in Portuguese, which I understood none of. So that's how you learn. You fall on your face a lot. Right. So anyway, I didn't have a place to live, all that. I wind up meeting a girl, and I stayed at her place for a little while, and somehow I run into another woman who owns an apartment in Rio, spoke English, and rented me a place in Ipanema right up the beach. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. So Brazil just kind of started to line up for me is what I'm getting at. And I studied there at a music school called Maracatu Brazil, and literally all of my favorite artists and percussionists went through there. So much where it was I rented a studio there, right? And probably 4 months into this, I'm practicing everything I can, trying to learn every day. This guy knocks on my door, and he's like, "Hey, man, you're sounding really good. and he said it in English, and it was like my heart just dropped. Like I could communicate with somebody. Like,
Yeah.
oh. So anyhow, that guy that knocked on the door was a producer. He lived in New York for 5 years, but he produces like Gilberto Gil, all kinds of artists. And it turned out there was a studio directly above my practice room. So I went up there and winded up spending pretty much every day from then on while I lived in Brazil, watching artists come in and out. And the other thing that really influences me about Brazil is like those artists, they would invite me to their shows, you know, and like say I was learning, I don't know, like pandero or sorter, they would let me sit in and do it, which I thought was a really cool, unique thing, like how open they were. And that just goes for the entire country, actually. It just seems like so open. There's so much love and respect there. Yeah. So it kind of changed my perspective of life. And it just changed my life, honestly, from being there and just learning the culture and learning how to appreciate other things that I didn't before, etc.
You know, you're talking about immersion. You know, you're immerse yourself into this culture. You learn the instrument there, which is probably the greatest thing you can do when you want to learn a specific instrument, a specific style. I know that you and I have talked a lot about that with Adam Topol too, and Adam has spent a lot of time in Cuba and has really immersed himself into that whole thing. And I want to come back to you, Will, on something with the Brazilian feel, because I want to talk to you about the Brazilian lope and how that is different than all the other Latin styles. But Will Fry, I know you've spent a lot of time like diving into different percussion art forms, and specifically djembe and African drumming. Talk a little bit how that.
Actually,
happened.
not really. Djembe, not so much. But I have been to Senegal weirdly twice.
Right. Was it to study or was it to perform, or both?
Both. So the first time was it's weird how things happen, isn't it? I remember doing a sort of a pop gig here with a great guy. He plays in Gorillas now, and actually he's moved down to Peckham where I live, called Shea Adeleken, and we did a little trio thing which had African influences, but it was really a pop thing. And then through doing that, I did this other gig with a band called The Very Best, and their lead singer had been deported back to Malawi. So I'm trying to shorten this very long series of events. So the short story is Baba Mal ended up being the guest singer on a gig with this band. So after the gig, I got chatting to Baba backstage and was sort of asking after his musicians, because I'm a big fan of his music. And I'd also seen his guys play before in London. And I think I was playing with them. I was supporting them, and we ended up playing together. Sort of like what Will was saying about people just being like, "Hey, come play." So then Baba was amazing, and he just kind of said, well, how do you know my musicians? How do you know about this kind of stuff? Like, how do you know my band? And these are all the guys that played on the Black Panther soundtrack recently, and I've been playing with Baba for decades. So he said, Will, I have my own festival in Podor, because the gig we were doing was a festival gig. And he goes, look, I have my own festival, right? And it's I'd like to invite you to come. So I went with him and some other guys that he invited. It was a guy called Winston from Mumford & Sons, Freddie from the Vaccines, Johan, who is a producer and band leader of the group that I was playing with. And we kind of put a set together on the bus on the way to Podor from Dakar, which is I think a 14-hour drive. So we picked up some congas from Baba's house in Dakar, and then worked out a set list all the way. And then when we got to Podor, this festival was just unreal. Like the music was just like mind-blowingly good. Every single band, the setup there for most bands is you have at least one or two Sabah players, then somebody else on tama, maybe a djembe player, and each band is just like even more mind-blowing than the last. It's just like absolutely incredible. So immersion in that sense, for real, like absolutely. And I went again with a neighbor, amazing London-based percussionist called Mohammed Gay, I just went over there just to study with him and his family, and he took us out again to gigs. It was like so welcoming. So we were at private parties and ceremonies and all this kind of stuff, and pop gigs. And but then I think the other thing is that in terms of playing salsa and Latin music and Brazilian stuff, here you can immerse yourself in London really easily, and I don't think you necessarily, if you haven't got the money to spend, or if you don't have the confidence to or means to sell up and relocate, then you can get really stuck into the culture in a big city like London, which is what I did for a long time. So I didn't go to Cuba or Brazil until 2015, end of 2015, by which stage I've been playing for well over 10 years. But that was great because when I got there, everybody was just like, obviously there was loads I could learn, and still is, but everybody was really accepting that I knew enough. As a kind of skinny white guy with an English accent, it was like I was still sort of welcomed and pushed on stage and got the chance to play with everybody, but also got the chance to be told that what I knew already was fine and correct. And so that was really, really good to have that. That said,
London it's a special place for that.
Imagine them telling you, "Hey, you're doing
it all wrong." Yes, all wrong. Start again. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah. That would not be good.
No, I had a lesson with Changuito, and it was great. He just looked at me at one point with my friend Jack McCarthy, actually, my really, really good friend, and we were both there, kind of just totally freaking out. And at one point, he sort of just looked me up and down. And Changuito's notoriously kind of moody in these lessons, and he just kind of went, "See," and I just burst into tears. Oh no!
Yeah, he didn't hit you.
No, he didn't. He was super cool, but I think he's cut down his drinking a bit. But he was nothing but lovely, and generous, and everything you dream your heroes would be.
Yeah. Willy Calderon, being from Colombia and your influences from your country, talk a little bit about the interesting nuances between all the Latin American countries when approaching playing salsa, because each seems like each country has its own take on it.
Man.
And I know this is for a very long conversation. I'm just curious.
Oh, you got the tough question there.
It's not even a long conversation. It's a controversial conversation.
Oh yeah, it is. I know. But
hey, but you talk to the right guy, because I don't care.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, musically speaking, though, because there are little nuances and approaches to it, I would say, except for maybe Brazil, the other countries, it's the little nuances. I mean, what's your experience on that?
Well, you have to know really in terms of salsa, you have to know how to play 3 different types of salsa: Cuban, Puerto Rican, and Colombian. Yeah. Everything else, I feel respectfully, falls into one of those categories, right? Puerto Rican bands that I've done. What do they call them? Like the artist comes into town and somebody gets the whole band together.
Like a scratch band.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Yeah, I've done it for a lot of people and a lot of Puerto Ricans. And in terms of percussion, you have to know the Puerto Rican way of playing that salsa. I would say the Puerto Rican way of playing salsa is more closed, more traditional, as opposed to Cuban, which is more open. And then you have timba and all that stuff, which is more virtuosity and doing a bunch of stuff, and then you have Colombian, which can be a mixture of both. But again, respectfully, I gotta use that word all the time now. Respectfully, most of the stuff you hear on the radio, no matter if it's Mark Anthony, no matter it's a Colombian band recording it. Okay, it's a Colombian production recording it. So let's say Mark Anthony. His producer is Sergio George, right? Okay. He's going to call Gale. He's going to call Diego Gale. Diego Gale is from Medellin, and he calls his guys, right? And the Colombian style of playing is very again, it's closed. It's very don't do too much. It's more orchestra style. Um, and the tuning of the way we record, the tuning is different than the Puerto Rican tuning and the Cuban tuning. So I think the Colombian style tuning right now is kind of like the standards, because I know Peruvians use it a lot too. The high bell, and a lot of these things were, you know, um, are in the Puerto Rican scene, and some things came from the Puerto Rican scene, stuff like that. So Colombian is like a mixture of everything, right? So we have the high tuned bell. Uh, the 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 congas are tuned, at C and G, or it could be like it could even be B flat, or B, yeah, B flat. I think. Oh, no, it could be B and whatever and F, I think it is. So these tunings are going into the recording studio are things that you should know, because if you're going to record a Puerto Rican song and you're going to tune like the Cubans do, which they tune their congas pretty high up, and their timbales pretty high up, it's not going to work. They're going to ask you to do
That's
it again.
interesting. Yeah.
So those are the different kind of nuances in the Colombian style of recording. It's mostly base, marcha, right? Not a lot of we use guaguancó in a couple of things, but it's very close. It's very close. Puerto Ricans tend to use more kind of rhythms, and Cubans just have a whole variety of rhythms in one song.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This might be completely off the cuff, but is there a relationship for what you just said, a relationship to the way the different countries speak the language? Because there's always nuances in dialect, and speaking a language is rhythmic. But if the countries are all sharing a language,
Mhm.
each country speaks it a little differently. Is there a relationship with that rhythmically to approaching music, do you think? I don't know.
I think so. I think there might be. I think most of it is which slaves landed there.
Right.
That's the big one. Because in Puerto Rico we have Taino, right? The Taino people, what came out of that, bomba plena, and all that is tuned low, right? All that is tuned low. Like Africa, everything is tuned low, so it's earthy, right? Cuba, um, through the evolution, um, Cubans with the son and stuff, you hear those congas, they were tuned pretty low. Now everything's tuned pretty high because everything's high energy, and it's more like Latin jazzy and things like that. In Colombia, we have a lot of folklore, right? So those drums are really earthy. So we have a standard tuning like we tune everything at C almost. You know what I mean? So it's more like a schooled, you could say, which I'm not too fond of the whole school percussion way of doing things. That's my cat.
Yeah, right.
But it's more like stricter. Let's just say that. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So I think it has a lot to do with the way the languages are, the people that landed there, and just the culture of each place.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
I'm going to go back to Will Phillips here and get back to the question I wanted to ask you regarding the approach of Brazilian approach to, for lack of a better way to say it, 16th note rhythm. I'll never forget, I went to a clinic years ago at PAS with Alex Acuna. And one of the things that Alex, it really helped me understand the Brazilian feel, which I kind of call the Brazilian lope, but it could be the way Brazilians the Brazilian groove, especially when you're hearing someone play pandero, is like a skip. So he said it was if you take a ball and you roll it down a hill, that's a Western approach to a 16th note pattern. If you take an egg and you roll it down a hill, that's a Brazilian approach to playing a 16th note pattern.
I really hate that analogy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I just for some reason, I know different people's minds work in different ways.
Right.
But I don't know, Will. It's your question, but I just
No, please
if you try and explain a whole style of music by an egg rolling down it, I don't know.
It was an interesting visual for me, Will, but I made me understand the skipping aspect of playing that groove.
That's what I mean. It works very differently for different people's types of brains, for sure. And for me, that just didn't sit right with me, because the way it was said to me was like, I don't know. Anyway, Will, it's your question. Sorry.
No, please continue.
But it's just always been that kind of thing has always been said to me by drum set players or people who are teaching music who say, "Oh, Brazilian music's really easy. All you got to do is just picture an egg rolling down a hill." And it's
well, first of all, I don't hear too many great players ever say that it's easy, and it's definitely not an easy thing for someone that's not really familiar with that style or immersed in it, like Will Phillips has been. But tell me a little bit about that, Will Phillips, as far as how you started to get that thing down. Was it just listening, playing it, or did it come easy to you? I mean, Jerry Steinholtz was a great teacher, and I did study with him too. And he had a way of teaching that was special. But how did you finally get to that moment where it's like, okay, I get this?
I was probably drinking beer on the street with somebody.
Yeah.
And it just clicked.
It always helps, yeah.
I mean, I wish I had like this amazing story behind that, but I don't. Like, it's just one of those. It's kind of like, when you're studying congas, for example, isn't there kind of this moment where like that slap happens and you're like, oh, okay, that's how you do a slap, and now it's there. It doesn't leave for some reason. It's the same thing with the pandero. And I think, I have one here. I have a pandero here. Happens to be on my wall. So what I think you're referring to, Rich, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the second 16th note.
Yes.
Right? So you can kind of take that picture and have like a ball, an egg, a ball, and a ball, and then repeat the cycle.
Uh-huh.
So that makes sense. So I think it's this one. Like you're talking about, it's a little bit more, the E is a little bit more accented, I guess, than the rest of the 16th notes. Yeah. That sound right, Will? I mean, I'm trying to think about it. I never really thought about it like that.
No, you explained it perfectly. Also, is that one of those sort of bottle top panderos that you got from? Was that what you were just playing?
Yeah, it's just the first thing I had.
Did you get that from America to the Brazil? I have the same thing from the same place, I think.
100% I did.
But I think Will's explanation of it is the correct way. You learn by just having a beer and being around the people and immersing yourself in the music. Yeah.
But that second 16th note, Rich, it's almost in like everything as far as like samba goes, right?
Yeah.
Almost. So like Repique Jamal, for example, right? It starts on the one. On the E, one, and I don't know. There's something about the E of the 16th notes that's very prevalent in samba music, and I believe that's what you're referring to. But how it just kind of like clicks is just time, I guess.
Yeah, time, right? And
time.
And also playing pandero is the coordination between both hands and the movement and how that all works.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of practice. Obviously, it's you've spent time on it, and that's where you get that feeling. Go ahead, Willy.
I wore this shirt for you guys, literally.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's funny, Willy?
What's that?
So we got two normal shirt guys over here, but me and you went with the Brazilian shirt.
Oh yeah, look at you.
It's just random that happened, obviously.
That's funny.
Right?
Oh, that's great.
I'm gonna change it to my Japan shirt now, so we can talk about
nice.
a little bit.
So another thing with pandero, though, Rich, like when I started learning, I think one of the hardest things about pandero, in my opinion, is holding it.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the hardest things.
That's
So
right.
like when I started learning, I would walk around my house all the time, pretty much, with a pandero in my hand, and it would be like this too. Like I'd hold it upright where it would hurt, and I'd do whatever. I'd be cooking or whatever I was going to be doing. But that, I mean, I know it sounds silly, but that helped a lot because once you can hold the instrument, you'll get it.
Well, it's such
You'll
a
get
big part of of whatever hand you're holding it with, right or left, or
Right.
it's such a big part of the whole groove is being able to execute that hand and
Yep.
and in coordination with what you're doing with your other hand. It's a big part of it. And
Yeah, you're talking about like a newer style of playing too.
yeah,
Like the coordination between.
right.
Where I mean, in my experience, like a lot of it was this. Like it didn't move much. It just
Right.
didn't really move.
Right.
And now you're right. It's a lot of this going on. So you're needing it here, needing it here, needing it here, and just kind of going opposite directions.
I think that was when I was in Brazil. That was one of the things that knocked me out more than anything else was going to see a band with a pandero player there that where it was basically a guitar guy playing this big thick guitar, big wide body acoustic, surdo pandero player. The pandero player sounded like an entire drum set. I was completely floored. It was one of the most exciting things I had ever seen as a percussionist. I was so excited about it, and it's still to this day one of the hardest instruments for me to practice.
You know why it's hard though, and I mean this. I think it's hard because we don't really have a place to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, does that make sense? I mean, it's harder when you don't have outlets to constantly use it. Like when I got here, I used it all the time in Brazilian bands. It was a little bit easier, but
you've adapted it. You have successfully adapted it, I would say, into Western music and R&B and soul, and it's perfect for that. It's great for that, especially in breakdowns and cool parts of the tune where you can break things down and pandero can take. It's a great instrument for that.
You know what else? Sorry, real quick. Pandero can do for you. It can help you with your tambourine playing.
Oh yeah,
right. Because now you're doing different techniques on tambourine. Anyway, I've noticed that lately.
And like the salt and pepper shaker too. Like when you want to salt your food.
Oh yeah, you get really good at
that. Yeah. Hey, Willy Calderon, let's talk about Japan a little bit. How did this whole thing start for you as far as having the drive to want to go there and stay there so much, and talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure, change. Nice.
Mount Fuji.
I didn't even know.
That was a costume change? That was amazing.
Yeah. Hey, first person to do that on a Gombops live. Dude, my mom used to catch me sitting in my room as a kid watching Japanese television, like a channel. She used to be like, "What are you doing? You don't understand any of this. Like, change it, go watch cartoons or something." Dude, I've had this weird, if you believe in past lives or stuff like that, I might have been an old Japanese samurai guy or something in my past life. Because I've had this nostalgia for Japan, even when I hadn't been there yet. It's a weird thing. So the first time I went there was through my own accord, and that's actually when I took the commuter cajon and took a picture on the Great Wall of China with that.
That was an amazing photograph.
Yeah, man, I was proud of myself because the commuter is not heavy at all, but still it's something you got to lug around,
right?
You know. And I I went up the wall with the cajon on just to take that photo.
Yeah,
and I like waited till people were like, anyway.
Yeah, I could probably safely say that you're the first percussionist in the world to ever get a photo taken on the wall with a Gombops instrument.
You really tested that thing, right? The commuter, that's a long commute.
That's a long commute. And yeah. So while in Japan, dude, I was blessed to know that my talent out there was actually really admired. I didn't know there was so many people who who knew who I was. So I made all these connections. First of all, um, I would say, hey, I'm going to this club, you know, for an appearance or whatever, just a meet and greet, and people would show up and they would bring me like their little bongos and stuff to sign, and I'm like, what? Not
How
even
did
in LA, you know what I mean? Like
how did they know you though? Was it from your work with any specific artist or?
it was from all that I put out. Like this is something I actually want to say to people. Like maybe you don't realize it, but you have a lot of eyes on you,
Yeah,
especially as musicians on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you use these things right, it's a global market.
sure.
So I would put a bunch of stuff out, music, solo videos, obviously, you know, some bands I worked with, they knew I was working with them, mostly the Latin bands, you know, that they would see me working with, they would kind of be like, oh, that's really cool. So I got out there, and then one of the people I met out there at one of these things, like a Facebook message, hey, you're out here, I want to meet you, da, 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 was freaking Takashi.
Takashi, yeah,
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 man.
yeah. Takashi,
Yeah, shout out to Takashi.
Hey,
Yeah,
Takashi.
right on.
Takashi, te
Way.
quiero.
everybody, they're referring to Takashi Nakazato as one of our key artists in Japan. Fantastic player, wonderful supporter of Gombops in Japan that they've spent time with. Yeah, he's a great player, great guy.
Yeah. So, and through him, you know, Rich, you and I spoke. His interest in Gombops at the time was like ridiculous.
Yeah,
So that's why we had to get him. We had to sign
yeah.
Takashi.
Hey, you were
You know?
very helpful in that. And you know, he actually just purchased his first set of the Lenny Castro series.
Oh,
So
nice.
we just sent those.
Love
Sweet.
it.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm sure I'm
So
gonna see him when I next time I go. But we started setting up clinics, right? And
Right.
classes and
Right.
gigs, and we just did this whole like. And then of course, you know, I went to back to Japan with like a jazz orchestra ensemble type thing. Those aren't as fun because I'm not allowed to do what I want to do.
right.
But when we set up the clinics and the workshops and the gigs, that's a whole different story, you know. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like rock stars, man. Honestly, Japan is great. I'm out here in LA, and yeah, you know, I have my buzz and everything, but it's like, hey, Willie, what's up? And that's about it. You know what I mean? Out there in Japan, they really value the art
Well,
and the artist.
they value arts in general. I mean,
Yeah.
they're it's a strong community of very celebratory with arts and
Right.
also incredible students. The Japanese musicians, you know, they're incredible students.
The
They
discipline.
really the discipline is unbelievable. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We set up a band out there to play just straight Latin music, and I brought the charts, and the charts is like straight salsa, right?
Yeah.
And the discipline on those, we had a female bassist laying it down, man. I'm telling you, she was laying it down. Like, hey, I'm sorry guys, but like better than a lot of the basses out here in LA.
Yeah. Hey,
And just the discipline was great, man.
I got to put something on the screen.
Yeah.
Hey!
All right,
There it is.
Takashi.
Takashi, mi
What time,
hermano, te
what
quiero.
time is it there right now? I think it's
That's
tomorrow. Yeah. How are you, Takashi? It's nice to see you, man. Yeah, so wow, that's great. That's great. And that's one place I have not been to, and we were going to go there actually in 2019, our family, to go as a trip, and it didn't work out. So I hope we can make that happen again someday.
Yeah.
I have a dear friend in Tokyo that works for a music distribution company there that I've known for 35 years. And I see her at NAMM all the time, and she always brings me treats and candies and wasabi from Japan.
Yeah.
And someday I want to go and see her. And
The green tea Kit Kats.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if you've had those.
I have had those. She brought those for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Seriously.
yeah. So
Japan is great.
let's talk a little bit about some of your kind of go-to Gombops instruments, guys. I mean, some of your favorite things that you've discovered while being a part of this family. I'm just really love to hear your thoughts on how it's working for you, what you like to use, and I think I want to start with Will Phillips on this, because first I want to give a shout out to Will as far as helping us create the bucket shikere, which is a very cool instrument modeled after a Brazilian instrument called the shake balde, and Will brought that idea to us, so yeah, Will, let's talk a little bit about your world there with the instruments.
Of what I prefer? Okay.
What you prefer, yeah. And
I mean, the bucket shakere, of course. I mean, I love it. I use it on every gig, actually. So that is one that you'll find all the time, at least if I'm on the gig. And then the other ones are, man, these Mariano congas. Like, you can't see it from here. These Mariano congas are just incredible. Like, I can't get enough of these. I put some different heads on them, like we were talking about earlier, and I don't know.
Different rims as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nine times out of 10, the producer will hit me up and say, wow, this conga sound is incredible.
So everybody, when you're looking at that drum, you're wondering, whoa, this looks like a different. What he did was he wanted us to do a California series hardware collar counter hoop on that drum. Now these drums generally come with only 5 lugs drilled. So what we did was we just drilled 6 into that one, and he was able to adapt that hardware counter hoop and cow skin, which we can do. If anybody's interested in that, we can do that as a more of a custom order, but that's what Will wanted to do. Yeah, the Mariano series, very warm sounding, great recording drums. I use them all the time for recording. I mean, that's one of the things about our conga line, I think that's so special. It's because each one of the congas that we make have a different character, and they're all great. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I work for Gombops. You guys know this and can attest to it. If you're going to use the Marianos, or if you're going to use Alex Acuña special editions, or the Tumbao, or the Roberto Quintero fiberglass, they all have their own personality.
Yes,
they all speak, and they all are musical, and it's a big palette, So, yeah. What about you, Willy Calderon?
Tumbao Pro, everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Nice.
Yeah, everything. Bongo, timbal, bongo. I got the Tumbao Pro timbales when they were the old ones. And I got those right after my bilato, because I have some bilato timbales. Actually, the bilato timbales were the reason in the beginning that I signed with Gombops. just that instrument, because it sounded so great. And actually, there was a band in Colombia called Guayacan that I also had the pleasure of performing with and stuff like that, where all of their instruments for a time were cut in half, right? So the congas were cut in half. The congas were like this big. The timbal was like this thick. And I was like, I had never seen that before anywhere else. And I thought it was such a great idea. And then at NAM, I don't know when it was, maybe 2011, 12, something like that. I saw the bilato, and I was getting offers from different companies and stuff like that. And I saw the Gombops bilato series, and I was like, man, this company is on a different, it's on a different path. So I liked it, and those are some of my favorite instruments, the bilato series timbales. So yeah.
Well, we can shout out to Orestes for that. Yeah, I mean, Maestro Orestes Vilato and had a great idea with that, and they're really cool drum. And then your Tumbao series, for those of you who don't know this, the Tumbao series congas is the basis construction also for our Lenny Castro series. The same wood construction, same head configuration as well, except for with Lenny, we had some fun creating a great design with him, which was a lot of his idea was that for the signature series, is the artwork, the original artwork. But yeah, the Tumbao series, again, another very warm
Asian oak, right?
Asian oak. That's right. With
Okay.
also with water buffalo heads, not with cowhide. Water buffalo is a very prevalent in Thailand and in Asia, and that's what they use for congas there. There's slight nuances and slight differences between water buffalo and cowhide, which we don't need to get into right now, but they're both kind of special. They just have these slight nuances, slight differences, you know. Will Fry, how about you? I know that you have a nice collection there.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of stuff. I'm a bit of a kind of I think I've been doing more and more recording, and over the years, those kind of sessions, especially playing lots of different styles of music, you have to have a lot of different choices. I think Gombops make it really easy because a lot of the things that they do are just like the perfect thing. Like, yeah, especially for recording. The Vilato timbales are really handy, especially if you're playing in like in a multi-percussion setup. I've been finding like the last couple of weeks I was in rehearsals for this musical where they wanted to have like a full salsa sound, but with just one person, just to kind of work out some choreography. So the short shell is really handy because you can stick it, like you can kind of get your tumba underneath it and have a really kind of compact setup. And also I first started seeing those, Luisito was coming to town with, I think, Richard Bonner, and he was just walking around with this little snare case. He was touring with them all over the world with this timbal, which I thought was like such a great idea because you always get like horrendous backline. And so many times you turn up to a gig, especially playing timbales, and they forget the stand and they forget the thing. So with those, like Willy was saying, with the commuter cajon, that's the kind of commutable timbale. You can tour with it, take it all over the world.
Right, you can put it in a snare case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I can see on behind Will, the Engelhardt bells are just like, you know, treasures. Really. I mean, I've got a huge stack over here of just beautiful bells at work. Just so warm and musical, like the congas. But also like the cheaper stuff that Gombops make, the more entry level things, like, you know, your first choice of drums, Willy, are the Tumbal Pro, which are not the kind of most expensive, but still have an amazing sound. So, and everything records well, even the fiberglass. The fact that you have that crown that's not quite so wide like that, they don't have that really nasty overtone.
Yeah.
Man, what else? The shell chimes, those are beautiful. I remember I did a session years ago with a producer who was quite offensive, actually. I walked in the room and he took one look at my cajon and he went, "Oh man, not a cajon. Oh no, you're not going to play that, are you?" We fell out immediately. And then as a point, I decided I was going to play it, and I was only going to play the cajon. And we got it out, and it sounded. He loved it. He went, "Man, I've never heard." It was I think it was the Mixito one. So
the mixto,
yeah. So yeah. So he changed his tuning. He really liked it. It sounds so warm and bassy and full. Yeah. So it's just classy instruments.
I do a lot of gigs with the De Los Reyes.
Right. I haven't checked that out yet,
dude. And I use a innovative percussion, the red brush, the red for like the kick, bro. I have a drum set.
Yeah. Okay.
I've done so many gigs with that. Just that
a
wire brush,
might do some shopping.
Brush, and the red brush from
the red fat brush. Yeah.
Also, Danny Ray's his shaker is it's just like the perfect. It just feels you know, I play most of the stuff I do is really playing shaker, especially the last few years. And that's just like this, like when you find the perfect shaker, that's, you know,
nice.
That's like sort of lives here. I sort of play it like that. You know.
Have you guys tried the new Alex Acuna triple shaker yet?
No, but I want one.
Those are great.
I use it a lot.
I do too. It's great.
It is.
It's really an interesting thing because you can take it apart and use one, you can use two, you can use three. It sounds great in a track. It just sits perfectly in the track. The other thing that's cool is you can, Will's going to show it right now.
I was going to show it. Yeah.
That's a really cool shaker.
So what Rich is talking about is that, for no one who's seen it.
The other thing that you can do is you can clip it in such a way that it's long. So put them in and use it as a rain stick. And you can clip them. Yeah. It's kind of cool to do that too. But yeah.
Downpour.
And I didn't even know this when we first got them. This is what Alex told me, is that if depending on which end of the shaker you're using, you get more projection, more of a lighter sound or a heavier sound
Plus, you
using
can
my
play
kits
them like
as a
maracas as
maraca.
well. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Of course,
So anyway, yeah, check those
That's
out.
nice.
Those are great. Those are great. Yeah. Well, we're always trying to come up with something, and we've got a couple of things under our hat for next year that we're working on right now that I'm not quite at liberty to say yet. But we're always trying to stay creative and coming up with ideas and keep the authenticity. And that's so much fun. Obviously,
Nice.
so much fun. Seeing Lenny Castro's drums out finally is really a great thing. He actually just appeared in the new John Mayer single video release that just came out with his new drums. So it's really fun to see that, Willy Calderon has a project. I want to get into a little bit what's coming up right now. So you're in the mastering mode right now for your album.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about, this is a very interesting project. Give us a little bit about what's coming up.
It is interesting. Dude, I look so washed out in this video right now. Like, it's weird. Anyway,
It's because 4 a.m. was just a minute ago. That's why.
yeah, you haven't eaten yet.
Oh no.
Look, check this out. This project started out like literally 6 years ago. Through an idea. A friend of mine, Miguelito Leon, my homie, in Santa Barbara, they needed some band or whatever, and they told me to put a band together. I was like, okay, I'll put a band together. So I ended up humbly putting one of the best bands I've ever heard anywhere. I was like, damn, maybe we should do something with this. Maybe I should do something with this. Maybe I should record something. So it started out like that. Ended up calling it LA Impromptu. The long name is the LA Impromptu Orchestra because it sounds more prestigious, sounds cooler.
Tell us who are some of the names on it.
Well, dude, I don't know how I did it, but I'm humbled by it. I'm blessed, and I thank everybody who said yes, and I thank everyone who said no, because I ended up getting better. Yeah, seriously. So, dude, first of all, a big shout out to Luisito and Robert Quintero. Obviously, those are my brothers. They're on it. The first person to get on it was my I want to call him my mentor, but he's my homie, Luis Conte.
Uh-huh.
He's on it. One of the last people I got on it was Alex Acuna.
Beautiful.
He did doing a timbal solo, which you don't hear much.
Right.
Okay, so it's like it's a rare treat.
Right.
My homie Tony Sukar is on it.
This is a kidding lineup.
Killing.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. We have a tribute to Cachao on there, and I got his lead trumpet player Cuso Fumero, which was his lead trumpet player for many years. Alberto Salas on piano. Eliel, I got Eliel Lasso to do that track also.
Too bad you didn't get anybody who could play that.
Next is like, I got Giovanni Hidalgo.
You know what? That's for the next album. That's for the next album.
Well, that's good. Congrats, man. That's beautiful. We can't wait to hear it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really an exciting project.
Awesome.
And
I'm
really.
I'm hoping July or August. I got to set it up with a distribution company, and so it can line up with the Grammy eligibility year.
Is it mostly original music, or is it a combination?
I have like 3 covers.
Okay.
And the rest is a 12-track.
Okay.
Thing.
And the rest you wrote.
Yeah.
Great.
You know who did something really cool on it? A friend of I'm so blessed to call all these people friends, man.
Sure.
Like, he had me to his house over for Thanksgiving and everything. He's an actor. His name is Bill Pullman. So he did, the Casper and Independence Day and all that stuff. He actually did the voiceover for the intro of the album.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's gonna be a really cool project, man.
Well, that's really great. Well, all of the best of luck. We can't wait to hear it.
Thanks.
That's
Appreciate
great.
it.
Will Phillips, what do you got coming up? You know what? Before you even answer that question, Will just appeared in this very cool thing called Jam in the Van, and with this guy named Dylan Chambers, great up and coming artist. But tell us what you got coming up.
I'm going to Mexico tomorrow. That's coming up.
Are you really?
Yeah, but just for family vacation.
Oh,
Nothing
okay.
to do with music, and I can't wait.
Uh-huh.
So what do I have coming up? I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but it's just not a ton in the pipeline right now because we're just coming out of COVID. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in town, a lot. But as far as like any touring gigs at the moment, it really won't be probably till next year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just where we're at.
Yeah.
I think the very fortunate ones they're getting to do that. Like Lenny's very fortunate to get on the John Mayer thing, and maybe that'll try to do a tour this year. That's great. It really is.
We're hearing more and more
Awesome.
about tours coming back, a lot more actually. I just been in communication on a regular basis with Danny Reyes because Zach Brown's got dates booked now in August, September, and we also have the Eagles use Gombops, and they're getting ready to do a bunch of dates. So Roger Waters has dates coming up. So there are big tours being planned for the end of the latter part of this year. So it's a good sign. It is a good sign. Will, what do you have coming up in England right now? I mean, is it still pretty tough?
Yeah,
there?
Will Phillips was saying, like it maybe loads of stuff, maybe nothing at all.
Yeah.
Because like things keep coming in, and it's just like, can you do this? This is going ahead, and then the restrictions change, and everyone can't do anything. And like what happened before on the first lockdown, it was looking great because there was an end date, and people were booking loads of festivals, and things were looking great. But then that all got cancelled, and all of those guys lost all of this money. So insurance companies aren't backing or like underwriting festivals. So no one really knows if they can or can't put stuff on or not. So potentially a couple of pop things were meant to happen with two bands that I was really looking forward to playing with, but they still might happen a bit later. There's almost daily emails about those that it's kind of off and it's on, and but yeah, for me it has been a kind of positive, like we were saying at the beginning of this, of doing some kind of home recording and understanding the recording side of things better. And I've been doing a few more recording sessions and stuff, both at home and also in the studio, and I think like doing stuff at home has really helped me get a better idea of how everything sounds in the control room. Even though I'm out front, so I know more about like where to play stuff, how to layer tracks, and whereabouts in the room or where near a mic to play things, and that's been invaluable. But yeah, I'm confident that we will be out of this, eventually. It's not going to be forever, but
I hope it's
we just
soon.
got to ride it out a bit longer.
Yeah, and I also just heard that the United States just purchased a whole lot of Pfizer vaccines to distribute. I think it's more specifically for African countries, actually.
Good.
But hopefully this is going to start spreading more and more, and I think hopefully the UK will.
Yeah, well, we've famously bought loads for ourselves and are currently just hogging them all. So hopefully, hopefully we'll have to share a bit more. Once we've vaccinated everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, where in London are you exactly? Because we started talking about this before, but.
Yeah, do you know Peckham? So I'm like southeast. So Peckham's the kind of West African kind of community and Latino community. But it's about a 20-minute bike ride.
What airport? What airport? Gatwick or?
Yeah, I get. Well, to be honest, Gatwick is geographically closer, but not necessarily the quickest to get to. All of the airports in London are kind of far out, apart from city. But so I'm kind of near the center of town. Really, it's like a 20-minute cycle ride into. Dude,
I love London, bro. I had to go to the King's Cross to get my Harry Potter photo.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, but that's what the tourists do, buddy. You don't we do that. You want to come out to the gigs? You should have called me. I would have taken you out.
I tell you, I was so impressed with London's tube and the whole thing and the transportation and how
I'll
well it
give
was
it.
mapped out. I
We've
mean,
got that. The public transport's
you
very
got
good.
that
Yeah.
down. I mean, when I got to the airport and I got right into the tube and right into downtown London, that was fantastic. It was so beautiful. But
I
well,
rented
listen,
a
guys.
bicycle.
Yeah.
I just did the whole Thursday.
Okay, listen, it's been great having you today, guys. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Thanks,
much.
Rich. Thanks for the
Thank you
invite.
very much, Rich.
Guys,
Really-
come visit. Open invitation.
someday.
Takashi, if you're still there, I owe you a return tour guide of London. So if you're still,
I'll hit you up when I'm there. For 100%.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks, Will.
I
I'd love
will
to
too.
pick you out. Please
I
do.
will
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Please do.
Will, do you know Miles Gould?
Very well. Yeah, yeah. Miles is, for anyone who doesn't know Miles, he's one of my favorite percussionists on the entire planet. Absolutely incredible player. Live, but especially in the studio is where Miles just shines.
Tell him hello for
genius.
us. Another great Gombops artist in England. You
try and do one of these with Miles. He'd have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, gents, thanks again. All wonderful information and so much fun. And I wish you the best, the rest of this year. And keep us posted. What Willie said about social media, obviously very important. Share with us things you're doing so we can share them. Keep us posted. I'm saying that to not only you three guys, but everybody out there. Keep us posted on everything you're doing. We're also getting ready to launch our TikTok channel, which is entirely a different format from everything else. And you're going to be hearing from me regarding more content for TikTok. So we'll be talking about that too. But keep in touch. Stay in touch with us always.
Hey, gotta give a shout out to everybody who commented. I'm reading the comment. Takashi, we'll see you.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, thank you, everybody, for all your beautiful comments and for watching. And guys, hang tight for a second. I'm going to sign off, and I'll be right back with you.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today for another edition of Gombops Live. And in 2 weeks' time, I don't have the exact date yet, but I will be announcing it soon on social media. We're going to be featuring what we call Gombops Cuba Abroad. So it'll be featuring Ilya Lazo, Edwin Sanz, and Yasmani Santos. Ilya Lazo now lives in Copenhagen, Denmark. Edwin Sanz lives in Switzerland. And Yasmani Santos is now in Angola, Africa. So we're going to be having a show coming up with those three guys in 2 weeks' time. So stay tuned to all our social media. We'll be announcing that date soon. Anyway, everybody take care. Thank you so much for watching and all your support of Gombops. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.